So many questions about Liverpool, of course, with Jurgen Klopp leaving and Arne Slot coming in, and they've won every game in the pre-season tour here in the States. Obviously, it's pre-season. You can say you can't read too much into it, but let's do that. As we welcome back Luis Garcia and Mario are with us. Are you in a better place with Liverpool than you were before the start of the pre-season?
No. I'm in exactly the same place.
Right, so this doesn't make a jot of difference?
No, not at all. I haven't budged one way or the other.
Right.
You know, I still think it's going to be the first part of the season is going to be a learning phase. I mean, I think from what I've seen so far, there doesn't seem to be too much of a difference between the way Slot plays and the way Liverpool play, which I think is a positive. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there are always little foibles that every coach has that they want players to do in certain positions. And those little teething problems is probably, for me, what will happen at the start of the season.
Let's take a look at your starting 11 then for the opening game of the season, which is, I think it's Ipswich, isn't it?
Yeah, Ipswich,
the opening game. Now, what stands out here, obviously, is the fact that Darwin Núñez isn't your starting number 9.
Yeah. Well, I think Jota's one of the best finishers in the Premier League. Simple as that. And that's the reason I've got him ahead of Núñez. That's the one thing Núñez has to get better at. But
if you look at Núñez's stats, look at his number, they're not that bad.
No, but he's behind, isn't he? He's behind in pre-season. He's 2 weeks behind everyone else.
But the way you're talking is like, even if he was up to speed with everybody else, you would still play Jota. Yeah, this is a player, you know, who did get goals last season, who does get himself in good positions, who you argue with me just needs that extra 1% to be able to cross the line as a top striker for Liverpool.
Yeah, but
Jota's a better finisher.
Jota's a better finisher. So, you know, as a new manager coming in, the one thing in your head is always about, let's have a good start.
Right.
And you can't afford to think about the future, because that's what you're doing with Núñez. Right now, in terms of finishing, he's not where he should be. Right now, in terms of finishing, Jota is, and he's fit. And that's why you play Jota over Núñez. If I'm Arne Slot.
Mario, as a defender, who would you prefer to be up against, Jota or Núñez?
You know what the part is with them is that you will have to fight in a bigger body-wise when it comes to Núñez. But what the guy said, Jota, he may be like, even if you look at, like, if we take the goals out, the assist level, you understand, he's on, what is it, 3 or 4? And the other one is on, Núñez is on 13 or whatever. But as a striker, I don't care if he assists. Score my goals for me. That's what I want. So in a way that Jota, for me, just the way he goes beyond the speed, the movement, and how he plays a game, and he doesn't need so many chances to score. And I think eventually, in the long run, you cannot have season and waiting for someone to score. There are tough games sometimes, and I want my striker to deliver. So yeah, Jota will be a harder player for me to play against then.
Can I just jump in there?
Of course.
The one thing as a defender, if you have the choice of playing against Núñez or Jota, you take Núñez every day of the week, because you always know where Núñez is. You never know where Jota is.
Right.
So in the penalty box, disaster.
Luis, same question to you. Simple. Jota or Núñez? Who's starting?
Honestly, guys, in my point of view, if I'm the manager, I think I don't play them in the same place. I don't think that Diogo Jota... I love Diogo Jota, and I like the finishing. I totally agree with you guys. More quality, more talent, probably on the ball. The runs are fantastic, getting into the boxes, into the pockets. But for me, he's not a centre forward. He's not a player who can stick up front. He's a player like kind of Firmino was doing the job. He can stick there for a little bit and then drops down and then arriving in second line. He's very good on 1v1 situations, facing, but not on his back. If you are inside the box, yeah, you can turn around and maybe score a goal. But Diogo Jota, when he is very important, when he's key for Liverpool, is when he arrives in second line, when he's make those runs and no one is following. No one is as a number 9 with a centre back on his back. So if I have to play a number 9, I will go with Darwin Núñez, because he provides me with some different things. The fact that he can run on the space, he can hold the ball, he can play, he can score goals. Sure, that not maybe with the quality of Diogo Jota, but Diogo Jota will start on the wide area, so maybe behind Darwin Núñez, but not as a centre forward. We'll have to wait and see what Slot decide. But for me, it's not a number 9.
Don.
The funny thing is, when you watch Darwin Núñez, and his best performances for Liverpool has been off the left-hand side when he's facing goal, because when you're a young player and you're trying to learn the trade, Luis talks there about his hold-up play. I don't think his hold-up play is actually that good. I think what he does when he's at his best, he can spin in behind because of his pace. He latches onto things. But when you're a young player, and we've all been there in different positions, obviously 2 defenders and 2 sort of forwards, and me and Luis, when you're a young player, you tend to start wide and you tend to face goal because everything's more simple. Then once you sort of perfect your craft a little bit, you can then play as a number 9 because you've got 2 defenders behind you. It's difficult to try and run away from them, or your first touch has to be electric. That's why I think Luis talked, or we talked about Firmino there being the link for Sadio Mane and Mo Salah, because technically he was that good. Darwin Núñez is not just yet. And also you've got to take into the fact that Arne Slot's probably not even met Darwin Núñez yet. Probably not even said hello to him, because they've only just arrived back to Melwood. Trent, Diaz, Darwin Núñez. So he's not even had a minute to try and work with him, to try and find out actually what's his capabilities like, what's the relationship between me and player. So it's funny that Luis said
What does that mean?
Well, it just means you need to try and figure out, without watching tapes, what he's good at and what he's bad at. And then you
But can you only do that in matches as opposed to training?
But that's my point. But that's my point with Darwin Núñez. Arne Slot's not even met him. So how can you try and figure out, when he's putting on patterns of play and shape, what actually is he's good at? Because you don't want Darwin Núñez coming short. As a number 9, he doesn't want to be coming into midfield into traffic because he's not good enough. What you want him doing is getting on the sides of defenders and spinning down the line, because that's why he's super quick. The 2 goals at Newcastle early on in the season, perfect example. So you've got lots of players at Liverpool, and I slightly disagree on the Jota with Luis that he's not a number 9. I get it because he's more favoured off the left-hand side, but that's what Liverpool have got at the minute. They've got loads of wide players that are really, really good, but they're missing that number 9. That's why I mentioned the other day someone like Ollie Watkins. When you play the width of the 18-yard box, who can do everything and do everything well, that's probably what they're missing.
Is it not counterproductive if he comes in and he said, look, I'm sorry, Darwin, I'm going to be starting Jota ahead of you? Because then psychologically, if I'm Núñez, I'm thinking, well, oh, man, now every time I have to try and prove myself whenever I get an opportunity.
Well, unfortunately for Núñez, that is unavoidable. Had this been had everybody arrived at the start of the season, then if you don't start the season and you're Núñez, having had a full pre-season, then I would suggest you're probably right. Your brain starts thinking, well, this guy doesn't fancy me either. But I don't think Darwin Núñez is going to come in and say, I need to be starting in 2 weeks' time.
No.
When he hasn't even said hello to the guy, met the guy, hasn't seen the guy, doesn't know what the guy wants from him. So I don't expect Darwin Núñez to expect to start on the first day of the season because of the circumstances of the situation.